Alright guys, in this video we're going to talk about, more about angles and how we can classify angles and some important things about them. So the first thing we're going to do is just talk about 4 types of angles that we will commonly see. So I have these little graphs, and if you printed out the paper you should too. So our first type of angle is going to be a right angle, which is 90 degrees, and you might have heard this before. So I've given us these, these little grids, and they're actually polar coordinate grids. I have to figure out how to write on mine. There we go. Get my eraser going here. So the first grid, I'm going to draw a line that goes like directly east to the right. So if we had an x-axis, it would be here right in the middle. And a 90-degree angle, so it's going to be our first one. Or a right angle is just what we said, 90 degrees. So from here, it would point directly up. And we show it's a 90-degree angle by putting a little box, like a perfect little square, in the corner of it, and that will show it's a right angle. The other angles that we're going to use today kind of go off of that. So if it is smaller than a right angle, and I'm going to do the same thing. For these angles, I'm always going to start with the line, excuse me, like where the x-axis would be. And if it's smaller than a 90-degree angle, right angle, or less than 90 degrees, then we call it an acute angle. And that's usually pretty easy to remember because it's so cute, isn't it, right? So small. So an acute angle, I'm going to use my angle symbol, is less than 90 degrees. But it's also more than 0 degrees. All right, so moving on, we also have the opposite, right, of an acute angle. So that's an angle that is more than 90 degrees. I'm going to do the same thing. Start with my line on the little polar grid there, like where the x-axis would be. And here's my 90-degree mark up top. So I just need to pick a line that's more than 90 degrees. I'll just pick over here. And this would be an obtuse. I think I got cut off somewhere, but I said an obtuse angle is more than 90 degrees, and I drew it up there. So here's our obtuse angle. And we're going to say more than 90 degrees. But we also have a limit for this one on how far we can go. We don't want it to be more than a straight line. So if I went halfway around this circle here, if we went over to this point, that would be a straight line across on our graph. So our angle does have to be smaller than that. So we also say for an obtuse angle, it's less than 180 degrees, which would be a straight line. Which brings us to our last angle, which is what we call a straight angle. Really could be called a straight line, right? So a straight angle is exactly 180 degrees, or it's just a straight line. So those are our 4 types of angles that we'll commonly see and that we should be able to classify. So before we try some examples, I have to figure out how to get to my next slide. I think I'm going to do this one. Here we go. Let me add in our picture for us. Okay, so before we do our examples, we want to talk about one last term that we'll see with angles here, and it's called the interior of an angle. So we say a point is on the interior angle if it is between, so we'll fill in that for our fill in the blank there, points that lie on each side of the angle. So go ahead and on this little grid, draw an angle anywhere you want. I'll just do something up here to over here maybe, doesn't matter where. Mine looks like an obtuse angle, right? It looks like it's more than 90 degrees. And the interior of the angle would be all of this, anywhere between the two sides of the angle. So let's just practice our terminology. I'm going to put some points on this angle. I'll put a point here, the vertex, and here. And I'll call this angle A, B, C. So if I put a point over here, point D, I would say in this diagram, point D is on or is in the interior of angle ABC. And then let's do the opposite. So I want you guys to draw an angle ABC where point D is on the exterior. So you can pause me for a second, draw, and then let me play and see what happens. All right, so you're supposed to draw a point D on the exterior of an angle ABC. So I'm going to make it magically appear. There we go. And in this diagram now, point D is on the exterior, or I'm actually going to say is not in the interior of angle ABC.